Hi, welcome to From Here Forward, a UBC Podcast Network podcast. I'm Rumneek, and she's Carol.
That's me. Hey, hey.
And today, we're doing a little segment we like to call Changemakers. This is where we profile different UBC faculty and alumni that are out there doing their amazing thing to help change the world. Hence the title.
So for this episode, we sat down and spoke with Dr. Greg Dipple. He's a professor of Geological Sciences at UBC and has been for the past 30 years. That's like a whole 3 decades. And that alone is super impressive.
But there's more. He's also the chief scientific officer for his newly formed company, Carbon Minerals, which is kind of important because Carbon Minerals was just awarded $1 million from X Prize, an organization backed by the Elon Musk Foundation that funds breakthroughs to help solve the world's most pressing problems, most notably climate change.
And we love that kind of big money.
And we also really like Dr. Dipple. He's kind of amazing. I mean, it did take us a while to fully understand why and how he's so amazing, but we got there with his help. I mean, he is a professor after all. And while I'm proud to say I learned quite a bit, bordering on expert, I'd say, I'll let Dr. Dipple explain his discovery in his own words.
I started working in this area more than 20 years ago now. So I started as a university research project where I had a sabbatical, and I went and spent it at Los Alamos National Lab in the US, where a group were working on a sort of a chemical engineering approach for taking carbon dioxide from flue gas and turning it into minerals. And it involved some of the same rock types and geochemical reactions that I worked in my research. And so I went spent some time there trying to understand what they were looking at. And part of their process, they were proposing to open up new mines to mine olivine and ultramafic rocks as feedstock for this chemical engineering process. And it struck me that there's already billions of tons of mine waste that's like that in composition that already exists globally. So I undertook a project to go just start characterizing existing mine wastes to see if they could be feedstock for this chemical process. And our surprise was we kept visiting sites where the mine tailings, these ultramafic mine tailings, were already forming carbonate minerals in place. So that, opened up this idea that maybe we don't need the big chemical reactors. Maybe we can do this with the waste and use reaction with air and capture carbon dioxide directly from air and turn it into minerals. And so that was really the beginning of this whole process. And that was about 20 years ago. What's happened in the last few years is we've finished a number of projects in partnership with a number of different mining companies. And we've pushed, the idea of this technology out to pilots at mine sites. And it's really now at the stage of maturity and demonstration that we need to just start doing it. And that was really the motivation to form Carbon Minerals and to start to set up a company that can work in partnership with mining companies to successfully deploy this technology. So the process is natural, but it's happening at a much faster rate than it would normally happen because the rock has been removed from the mountainside, crushed to a very fine grain size so that the metals can be extracted. So it's a natural process applied to a manufactured material, if you will, in fact, and a waste stream. So we see that as a real win-win. You've got something that's a waste. Let's get some value out of that waste and use a process that's entirely natural and very well understood and produces a safe, benign product which is stable over geologic time. So we're putting carbon in an incredibly durable form, a solid form, a mineral form, which is actually where more than 90% of carbon on Earth actually is in rocks. It's not in biology or water or the air. Most carbon on Earth is held in minerals and in rocks because that's where it's thermodynamically stable, and we're just trying to put more carbon into that thermodynamically stable state.
Okay, I love that a solution helps the environment by literally helping the environment do its own thing. There's no chemicals or manipulation. It's just about letting nature do her thing.
We love it. And this idea of using waste products to create something positive is amazing. And for mining, it's pretty mind-blowing. I mean, when you think of mining and waste, there's some serious bad vibes there. Dr. Dipple was the first to accept that mining has a pretty shady history.
Which is why something like this is super important. So with innovation like Dr. Dipple has created, we asked, what does the future of mining look like?
So you're going to see a dramatic reduction in the carbon footprint associated with mining, stricter and stronger environmental regulations and monitoring across the board on all of these things. And that together with the potential for some types of nickel deposits to actually capture CO2 from air and mineralize it, I think we're going to see the next round of mines develop. There's going to be mines that will actually be operating in a carbon negative way. So these will be a net positive, not only in terms of supplying nickel to a nickel supply chain, so it's going to decarbonize the supply chain of the metals for companies like Tesla and others who are going to need that nickel, but it's also going to be providing carbon removal credits as an operation as well on top of that. And that's going to be, literally, you could think of it as mining for the environment. It's going to be taking an industry that traditionally has done poorly for the environment and turn it around, and when done right, can actually be done such that there will always be localized negative environmental impacts. And those will be managed and also be contributing towards a larger scale environmental good, which is dealing with decarbonizing our industry and our lives and removing CO2 from the atmosphere. So, for a long time, I've seen the potential of this, but now we're really starting to see very clear pathways to be doing it in the real world at a real scale, in a fully commercial environment. And the idea that we could be part of the world's first carbon negative mine, I see that as being achievable in the near term and now even likely. And, that's been a long-held dream of mine to be associated with actually helping develop that. And I think that we will do that. I think that we will have carbon negative mines operating in the near future, and I hope that we're part of that. We fully intend to be. So I'm pretty excited about that.
So you don't have to be a science star to see that this is pretty amazing and a perfect example of flipping the script. Instead of mitigating negatives, which is what we associate with mining, he's saying that mining can actually become a net positive for the environment. We asked Dr. Dipple, can a project like this help prompt a more optimistic outlook for the future and give people a sense of hope in addressing the climate crisis? Here's what he said.
I think, if you step back and you look at the way that the approaches that are being brought on board to deal with climate change and with our carbon emissions, there's lots of technologies out there that are reasonably well known that should be able to scale and do this. So it's not a technical problem for us as a society. It's an economic problem and a social, political problem. So we have the means to fix this. We have to make sure that we do it in a way that sustains our standard of living and allows for other parts of the world to improve their standard of living at a reasonable cost. And I think that in many instances that is technologically feasible, but it also requires some really serious discussions and decisions politically and socially. And those are actually, I think, the biggest obstacle to progress right now. We have to stop pointing fingers and collectively embrace that we need to do this. Understand as individuals and as nations, understand our historical emissions and our responsibility to the accumulation of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere to date, need to accept our past emissions, and then find a pathway forward that recognizes the role that everyone can play in finding solutions. Those are really complex discussions because they require admissions of things in the past, and they require taking responsibility for those past actions, as well as being willing to take the actions and the expenditures needed to fix the problem. That's very difficult politically, and that's what we see on the world stage on a regular basis. It's primarily, we can do it. I'm still a university professor, and when I teach, that's the message that I present in my classrooms, is that, we can solve this, but we have to embrace it, and we have to figure it out as a society.
Okay, so he's a scientist, professor, inventor, $1 Million award winner, changemaker, climate hero, and now a philosopher. I mean, the man is doing it all. He is slaying the game.
He truly is. And his point about what's holding us back is pretty enlightening / super frustrating. How can we actually have the solutions to our climate problems, yet not act? Obviously, it's more complicated than that, but it shouldn't be, right?
Sure. I guess the positive here is that thankfully we have people like Dr. Greg Dipple making sure that these solutions exist. Now, as he says, we just need to come together, hug it out, and figure it all out as a society.
That sounds pretty easy.
Sure. Thanks again, Dr. Dipple, for being our guest and a pretty amazing changemaker.
Okay, that's it for our Changemaker episode. Short and sweet.
Oh, you flatter me so.
Stop. I love talking with Dr. Dipple. He was/is amazing, and Carol, you're fine too.
Thanks.
And I have to say, I'm pretty excited to meet more of these changemaker people.
Totally. They're super inspiring, which is something that we all need more of, so we'll be doing more.
Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you catch our next episode by subscribing or following our show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling the feels, drop us a review. You can also find me on Twitter at Rumneek with 3 E's.
And me, Carol Eugene Park.
From Here Forward is an alumni UBC podcast produced by Podium Podcast Company.